Hello, welcome back. This is Matt Groll, Vista Homes. Glad to have you join us today. Last week we talked about rough plumbing. Today we're going to talk about rough HVAC. So before we jump into this too fast, remember we talked earlier about the J&D. The J&D is an engineered plan for the heating and cooling of a home. So there's only so many things we can change about the heating and cooling of a home because there's certain requirements based on the number of windows, doors, R values of the insulation you're using. So that's going to dictate how we heat and cool your home. So what that dictates is the type of furnace we're going to use, if it's forced air, what type of AC unit, where the heat ducts are going in your house, how many per room, what size of the lines, what size of the cold air returns. So a lot of this is predetermined. So the question is, one of the things people ask, well, what about something besides forced air? Could I do radiant heat? Radiant heat is awesome. We've talked about this in previous videos. Great option, but definitely more costly. So it really depends on what you're going for. Personal preference for sure. Forced air is typically the traditional, more efficient from a cost perspective. Yeah, you have the sounds of air flowing through your house. You have the movement of air. So some people don't like it for that reason, but it's what we see in 95% of the homes we build. So you're gonna see heat ducts in every room. You're gonna have cold air returns typically on the floor or on the ceiling. So what that means is the hot air is gonna blow through the furnace. It's going to blow air through the furnace, through the heating coils, which heats the air, which blows into the room, and the cold air return allows that air to be pulled back through the system to be reheated and circulate through each of those rooms. So it's definitely a thing that you need to make sure that you're not putting things over your furnace filter or over your vents so that that air can flow appropriately. Most of the furnaces we install are 95% efficient, so they're definitely high efficient furnaces. That's going to come standard in your quoting that we do for your home. The question is that we see a lot is how many furnaces perhaps do you want in a home or a larger home? Some people want a furnace for every level. That's great, but just a rule of thumb is about 10,000 per furnace in a home. So as you can see, it's a big decision to add just another furnace to a home. So kind of the cutoff we have for one furnace to two furnaces is typically around 3,500 square feet. Bigger than that, you probably ought to go with two furnaces. Smaller than that, you can get away with one. There's definitely a balance between a one furnace home in, let's say, a basement and a single level home because it's hard to balance those two. Typically, they say it's about an 8-degree difference per level of a home just because you're higher and the hot air rises and more solar thermal input and so forth. So you got to take that in perspective as well. So there's things you can do like adjust the vents on your heating vents. There's dampening systems now that can be controlled to help regulate the flow through the home if you just have a one furnace system in a home. So the dampening systems are pretty cool. Definitely helps in that regard. So something to think about there. Condensers, those are the machines that are outside of your home. Just as we heat those coils, blow air through that. In the summertime, we're going to cool those so that when air passes through, it chills the air and then you get cold air out of your vents. So it pumps that refrigerant out to the side to cool that and to pump it back in. So that's that big metal thing you have that makes a lot of noise. So you want to be careful. We've talked about this in the past. If you set your thermostat too low, anything below 70 degrees, for a long period of time, you could very well freeze over. Freezing over is caused by running your system too low for too long or your filters are dirty. So if you ever freeze out your system, those are the two things you want to consider. And if it does freeze over, you go out to your AC condenser, you can see a big ball of ice on your line set that goes out, the pump that transports that coolant out to your condenser will just be all frozen up. So what happens, you turn off your furnace, you have to let it sit for over 24 hours for everything to melt, then turn it back on. And unfortunately, that's in the middle of summertime, so you're gonna be very hot in your home for a day. So it really stinks. So you just wanna watch those things and make sure you're swapping out your filters appropriately. While we're talking about filters, so all the houses we build now, we have these box filters. They're a lot more efficient and better than the old filters, the little 1-inch filters you see in Home Depot and around. So they're better filters, but the downside is they cost a lot more. So just for a single filter is like 40 bucks. You can get them some of the box stores. We found the most efficient place to buy them is Amazon. Just buy them. We recommend changing them out every 6 months. So daylight savings is a great indicator. Every time you change your clock, you change your filter. You can take your filters, these big box filters. Sometimes some of our HVAC people tell us you can get essentially 2 cleanings out of them. So you take them and you shake them and knock them against something hard to get all the dust off. and they say you can get some more life out of them that way, but typically they say doing that any more than 2 times, you probably should just replace your filter. So you definitely want to keep that in mind. When we build your house, we're actually going to use 2 filters. We're going to have one at the very beginning, and as you can imagine, through drywall and sanding, we create a lot of dust. Through painting, we create a lot of dust. Through cleaning, we create a lot of dust. So we're going to have 2 filters on site when we get the installation, and our guys will be going through making sure those filters are clean and replaced as necessary. And then when you move in, you have a brand new filters to start with. So that's something to consider, plan, and have those ready so you can swap them out in a appropriate time place. Fireplaces. So a couple options here. You have the traditional gas fireplace. Our basic gas insert is about $3,500, or you can go to an electric system if you want. Electric fireplaces are very cost effective. You don't have to worry about gas, funny smells, some of those things, but they are fake fire, right? So they're getting better. I mean, the old days it was pretty laughable. Nowadays they actually look better. They're not quite there yet, but they're getting better. But you can get an electric fireplace for like $300, $400, $500, $600 in Amazon or from one of our suppliers. So definitely a cost-effective solution, but definitely a very permanent solution. To swap those out later is very difficult, to get the venting, to get the gas, and all those kind of things. So definitely a decision you have to be very sure about if you can. So as far as the vent covers go, they typically, all your cold air returns are typically white to match the paint or just to blend in, whereas your heat vents are typically on the floor. They're going to come out most likely over a window or below a window, so that as the cold air or hot air comes in, that regulated air will actually act as an air blanket against that window. So those heating vents will be above or below a window in each bedroom that you have. So those vent covers can be white, brown. There's a lot of cool ones online you can find to match better with your flooring, carpet, whatever you want to do. So a lot of options. Those are things you can swap out down the road as you prefer. So there's a lot of things you can do in a home HVAC system. You can do mini splits. So if you have a certain area that just doesn't heat or cool really well, like a bonus room above a garage or an office that may be offset of the house ADU, a mini split is that thing you see in a hotel room on the wall that you can adjust, and they work great. And they're pretty efficient. They're run off electric, so they don't have a gas service. So they're pretty. You can move them around. You can add them, I should say, or take them away easier than having a big gas and exhaust line system. So anyways, those are some ideas with HVAC. So that's kind of wrapping that up. Yeah, so thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week. Thanks. Bye.